for CEOs and millionaires. I've never seen my vision be more crystal clear. Look in the mirror, see the change in who I used to be. I kept going, knew success would come eventually. But ask about me back then, they said I wouldn't make it. Nowadays they doubt less and tend to ask for favors. Poetic music, that's realness, don't let them tell you different. And if you ever lost in doubt, then follow your intuition. These words of wisdom is for those who's trying to find their purpose. Don't be living just to die, cause only death is certain. I'm working hard so I can toast to my accomplishments. Cause see, I lost it all and I ain't been the same since. I'm more focused, more ambitious, more everything. Grew up with nothing, now I appreciate the finer things. I know it's real when at the shows they ask for autographs. And now they know the name, they ain't gotta ask. Yeah. They ain't gotta ask.
Perfect. All right. So another member of the illustrious Jewish War Veterans Post 344 for one of the oral histories. We've continued to do this with our post members, and we're having a great time getting to know each individual member of our post and kind of their life story and what they've done, you know, outside of the military before and after as well. And then obviously what they did in the military. So the next guest is Alan Wernz. So appreciate your time and thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So how we kind of do this is just, you know, we start from the beginning, kind of how you grew up, where you're from, all that good stuff, and then kind of move along in kind of a chronological order.
I was born in New York City in Brooklyn, and I was a baby, which is pretty good if you're born. No, I'm just kidding around. I have a history in New York City. I was born there. I lived in Brooklyn for 10 years, then we moved to Queens. And
what part of Brooklyn did you live in?
I'm not used to being into so I'm trying to, right. So I went to City College in New York, the Brookburg School of Business and Public Administration, got a bachelor's. I was going at night, but then our friend President Johnson took away our deferments, so I went full-time during the day. And at the same time, I was when I was at night, I was working for Chase Manhattan Bank of Wall Street. Then when I graduated Baruch, I have a little memory problem too, so this is going wonderful.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So what year were you? So what year were you born?
1946. I'm on the leading edge of baby boomers.
Yeah. So, and when you were born in Brooklyn, were your parents born in the United States, or did they come from somewhere else?
No, they were born in the United States. One was born in Queens. One was born in Brooklyn. My mother's side. My dad's not Jewish. My mom is.
Mm-hmm.
Her maiden name is Plus, and I have quite an extensive background genealogy on that.
Yeah, nice. And then how big was your family? You have siblings and all that?
I have a sibling who's not following the Jewish religion. I am. I wasn't raised Jewish, but one day I said, I want to be part of this this tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So I took an introduction in Judaism. I had a little hassle with Rabbi Foster, because I said, I don't need a conversion course or anything. I'm Jewish, I'm circumcised, and I'm guilty. I feel guilty all the time, and I make people guilty. So
you're in.
So then I went right to my B'nai Mitzvah, studied that, and had my B'nai Mitzvah in 1999 in May, and I went to Emmanuel. I just picked it out of the book. I just went to Emmanuel. I went there for 23 years. While in the service, I forgot about my service. I
So
did basic.
we'll get to it. So
Okay.
so let's talk a little bit about how you grew up then. So with that, obviously you grew up. Your mother was Jewish. You came in a mixed home.
Right.
What was growing up in Queens like for you? Like what part of Queens did you grow up in?
Right. Well, spent 10 years in Brooklyn. I was 10 years old when we moved to Queens. Brooklyn is a faded memory. I really got my foundation in Queens. It was Maspeth, Queens, Maspeth,
Okay.
and had a bunch of friends.
And so
And typical New Yorkers, we didn't go to Manhattan because only go to Manhattan to work.
got it.
As I said, yeah, I went to Grover Cleveland High School in Queens, Ridgewood, Queens, and I worked at night.
And if somebody were to ask you like what kind of kid you were, what would you say?
What kind of kid?
Yeah, were you kind of rebel? Were you a little rambunctious? Were you a good kid?
I was just a wise guy from Brooklyn. I mean, we were, for example, we didn't go to Manhattan until we had to work, and we'd come back immediately. I played stickball, ride my bike, and I was just a normal kid in a white county. When we moved to Brooklyn, my dad said one day he wanted to get back to Queens, so he says the neighborhood's changing. So we moved to Queens, and he was happy. My mom was happy. We lived on the second floor of a duplex, and I just had the same experience as other white guys in Queens.
Okay, this is kind of
group.
a dumb question, but Mets or Yankees?
I'm Giants, New York Giants.
Oh, what about baseball?
Yeah, New York Giants.
Oh yeah. Back then,
San Francisco moved to San Francisco in 1958.
Gotcha.
And I was very upset about that. My grandfather was a Giant fan. My dad was a Giant fan, and I was a Giant fan. So baseball was a big part of my growing up.
Yeah. And so
the Giants played in the polo grounds. Yeah. And if you were born on your certificate, they would stamp what team you root for. Mine was New York Giants. That's being a little sarcastic. But if I'm a Giant, the Dodgers and the Yankees were the enemies.
Gotcha.
And I would friend to high school every day. He was the Yankee fan. I was the Giant fan. And we argued all the way there who was best, Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle. And I even was taking exams in high school. You take it before you go in college. And Giants are playing the World Series of California. And I said, the hell with this. I just walked out an hour and a half before, and I didn't care about I think they call them the Regents. I didn't care about that.
And then, so when you were growing up, too, being that you came from a mixed family, was Jewish identity talked about in your house at all? Like, did you know that you were Jewish, so to speak?
I knew I was Jewish because I would get some anti-Semitic remarks, and my mother spoke several words, and she grew up in Brooklyn, of course, and she knew Yiddish, not fluently. This is several weeks, like Hakmi Ochanik, and and I picked up some phrases, but I was raised Protestant Christian because, quote, my grandparents, my dad's side were alive. My mom wasn't. Her grandparents were born in Lithuania.
Got it.
And I never had a connection to Judaism growing up, which is unfortunate because I think there's several Jews in New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So you went to school. This was like what, the 60s, early 60s. You went to college?
Yeah, I started. College was in 1969.
Oh, okay.
High school, I graduated in 1963.
And so
went to,
And so growing up in that time frame, obviously it's a very interesting time in the U.S. history with, civil rights movement, Vietnam War going on. Do you remember any of that time at all in like how you felt and everything?
Of course. But I'm not a protester. And I'm looking for something here. I'm going to put my earbuds in. I'll just turn this up. Yeah, I was aware of Columbia. I was aware about the shooting in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a non-participant. I did not, to me, what the hell did I do? And my dad was a Democrat, and he was, well, if you know Archie Bunkie, you know my dad.
Okay.
And he didn't like that. My cousin called him Uncle Archie, and he didn't like that. There was no anti-Semitism in the house with my mom, and my mom loved my dad a lot and went along with whatever he wanted to do. She was a typical housewife. My dad worked for the Veterans Administration.
Okay.
And he was wounded in World War II. Normandy plus 3 days. He was on then he went up to France, and he had the hedge bushes or whatever, and he was shot in the stomach. And in the family, we had a joke that maybe he was shot by one of his cousins.
Okay. And so you go through school, you start working. When did the military come into play in your life?
Right. I was going to school at night, had no problem, until President Johnson, who I hated, I'd hate him. He had to be president. I'd gone through my life cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And he took away deferments for, if you're going for your degree, you had to go full time. So I quit my job, went full time, graduated in January '69, and I immediately was drafted. Went down to the draft board. It was, if you pass the physical, you're gone. So I had some problems in the physical, but I was sent back I went back home. Then I drafted in the Air Force, and I said, I'm not going to take a chance going to Vietnam. So I went in the Air Force for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So how did your parents take you getting drafted? Like when you said, "Hey, I finished school, but they gave me the letter. I had to go take a physical, and I'm in." What was your parents' reaction to that?
Right. My parents not being educated college, it wasn't a big deal. My dad, I guess he was proud, but he would keep a calendar of every month, and this click off every month until it hit the 48th month. He proud to be a military person.
Mm-hmm.
He hung out with guys major corps who were all military. And my first time I voted was for Richard Nixon.
Got it. And so you kind of grew up with a little bit of knowledge as far as like your dad and the people that he hung out with. So it wasn't just completely alien to you, right? Like you kind of heard stories.
No. Yeah. He would go out with the guys to the neighborhood bar he went to when he was 18 in Queens, and they were people in his group, like millions of other people that age. They had love of country, baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet, and but he never talked about the World War II to me. He held it all in. At times, my aunt would come over, and he would have a couple of drinks, and he would open up with her. But he was drafted, of course, and spent several months in a hospital in Long Island. And growing up, my family, mom and dad, they did everything for us. My mom has 6 siblings, 4 uncles, and one aunt of mine, and they were a close family, but I didn't have the knowledge of what it is to be Jewish. So my uncle wrote down everything on 2 pieces of paper, and that gave me a wonderful background of the family. She was a plus, Pluss.
Okay. Do you know how like some of the names worked out, like some of the Ashkenazi Jews, like how they got their family names?
Sorry, I missed that.
I said, do you know how folks got their names, like back in Europe, like why that name was what it is?
I think my name is Alan. I think the A comes from Abraham. My grandfather was Joseph.
No, I'm referring to the last name. So Prush, like Purss.
Oh, last name. Last name is a German name. They took out the T because they didn't think I was smart enough to spell it. That's a family joke too.
So in Europe, basically, there's two types of names, like family names, that usually come about. It's usually what you did in the village. So if your name is Black, you generally were like a blacksmith. If you were doing like Bloom, like another Jewish name, you were a florist. So your name was based on the occupation that you had in the town. And then the second part of that is a lot of other people were named after the town that they were from. And so, for example... No, that's not right. I had no idea I knew I was Jewish, but I had no background whatsoever. My mother used to make some Jewish dishes. My uncle, who became my surrogate dad, who followed his Judaism, occasionally going to temple, but I was not aware of Jewish names. I wasn't aware of the holidays. I just was aware of the New York Giants. Yeah. So let's get back to your service time. So 69, get drafted. You join the Air Force. What kind of job did you have in the Air Force?
In 69, I was sent to Shepherd Air Force Base to become a corpsman, which bothered me because the wonderful draft, the sergeant at the draft, the recruiting office said, "Oh, we're going to put you in hospital administration." They didn't, and I became a corpsman, which I did not particularly was fond of. But as you can see, I have humor. I'm a humorous guy, and I just made fun of it. Got through got through the corpsman training, and was sent to Wilford Hall Hospital in San Antonio, where I had my basic in July. The, the heat of the night and the day too. It was hot.
Yeah, I was
But
stationed
our
there too.
barracks were brand new. Our barracks were brand new, and they were air conditioned. People say, "You had air conditioned barracks?" I said, "Yeah, I can't help out. I slept where they told me to go."
How did you like San Antonio?
Because of that, I'm sorry.
How did you like San Antonio?
Well, I could have been basic training in any city. You hate that city, San Antonio. Oh my God! And I hooked up with, of course, some people. Uh, I was taken out of Corpsman because I was not particularly fond of it, and I had some anxiety, and they sent me to Wilford Hall. Life is when you come to the fork in the road, take it, as Yogi Berra said, and you're never going to know what happened if you went this way. Well, I went back from the hospital into the hospital personnel, and that was my thing. I joked around with the guys. And one day, the people in assignment, one guy said he was from Montana. He said, they call me Big Al because it was after the show Laughing. So I was Big Al. I said, yeah. She says, do you want to go to the Air Force Academy? I says, no. I said, I graduated. He says, no, to work. And I said, well, what are the options? He said, Vietnam. And I said, where is this academy? And the academy was my main. I spent about 30 months down the academy, and I hooked up with people my age, of course. And it's just automatically, you just drift to the people that have the same background as you. I worked in the administration, in the headquarters, and I could do nothing wrong. The major, he loved me. Whatever he wanted to do, I couldn't do wrong. And it was a wonderful assignment. For example, one time, the officers in the academy did not like the officers on the academic side. And I had all these binders. I kept the regs and manuals and all that. And this captain came in. So happened my major was the director. He was sitting right in front of me. We had two chairs. And this captain comes in and he says, Ammon, do you have this regulation, whatever? And I said to him, you were so close to it, it almost bit you in the ass. And my major said to the captain, he said, isn't that funny, And he laughed. And I did, one time he let me go to get my master's at UNC, University of Colorado. It was called a University Without Walls. I would meet at a certain location, Denver or Colorado Springs, have a class for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2 weeks later, Friday, Saturday, and that's how I got my my master's. He cut me orders just to cover my tuggers. So, and the lifers in the office, they knew my relationship with the major, so I had it made. I did whatever he wanted, and it was just great.
That's awesome. And then, so you went to the academy, did what you had to do there, and then did you get out of the military at the academy?
Yes, my 4 years are up in July '73.
Okay.
I drove up to the academy at night. It was pitch black. They put me in these barracks, and I woke up the next morning, and there was puffy white clouds, the blue sky. I was hooked before I was there for 24 hours. I mean, being in Colorado, this grew on me. It was a wonderful place back then. 1971, I hit the academy in March. I was discharged in July, and 73, I drove home like any kid would do who gets discharged.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a minor problem. I couldn't take the weather, the people, the noise, and the store broke my camel's back. I'm getting my car washed. And the guy behind me, I go to put more money. The guy behind me said, "You don't have to put any more money. Your car is clean enough." I didn't even look at him. I just said to myself, I know Colorado. He does it. I'm gone. I drove back to the academy.
Wow.
I drove back to Colorado Springs.
Yeah. And so when you got back, what were you thinking as far as what to do? Did you have kind of a plan in place, or you just knew that, like, I got to get back to Colorado, I'll figure out the rest?
Right. I just packed my car and went. I could have gone to Chase Manhattan Bank, but I missed the time frame where you have before you could go back to the way you worked.
Mm-hmm.
And the person, Maria, she wasn't too happy the way I was working anyhow. So and it was that I found a federal announcement from the General Accounting Office, GAO, and I filled out the paperwork, and I got to Colorado. Well, I worked for AAA while waiting to get sent to start my job with the federal government.
Got it.
And
do you? This is a weird question to ask. Do you remember that ride going back? Do you remember like certain things about the ride going back?
Yes. But I wasn't too good a driver at night. When I hit the academy, I went in on the wrong side of the guardhouse. The guy straightened me out. I'm driving to the barracks, and my directions aren't good anyhow. And I see these lights in the background. It was an AP saying, "Ammon," he said, "I had to stop you before you killed yourself." I never forget that. He escorted me to the barracks. That's one, yeah. I never went. That was my first cross-country trip. Well, half-country trip. In my car. My dad didn't have a car. I didn't know from taking a car trips and vacations.
Oh, yeah.
Like many.
One of those typical New Yorkers.
My dad didn't have a car. Right, didn't have a car.
Didn't have a driver's license. I had a friend of mine who was from Brooklyn. He didn't have a driver's license until he joined the military.
You know, I got one. My aunt of my Uncle Sam gave me driving lessons, and I had a license, but never drove before I went in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. And so
you can see I'm opening up now.
Yeah, a little bit. When you filled out the paperwork to work at the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, for those folks that don't work in the federal government arena, was it something that interested you, or you were just looking for a job?
No, it interests me because I was a management auditor, and most of the guys were CPAs, or had CPAs. They were accountants. If I worked for a CPA, if I had an accounting job, they signed me to. I worked always for a CPA. And the job description found wonderful. It's a professional job, you know, and I had 34 years of fun.
Yeah. And going back to moving back to Colorado, what'd your family say when you were like, I'm out of here? Like, New York's not for me anymore.
I remember packing the car and Mom said goodbye. I don't even know. I think I told my dad I enlisted in the Air Force, but unlike other people, when I graduated from college, I didn't even have a party. Didn't have a party for me. And my mom, of course, didn't like the situation. And my dad just rolled with the punches. He had to be proud of me, never told me.
Mm-hmm.
Closer to my mom than my dad.
And so at the GAO, that was in Colorado Springs or in Denver?
It was in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
I'm in Denver. I worked for AAA, waiting for my time I'm going to be working with the GAO.
Got it. And so during your time working at the, at a federal agency, what do you miss about it, and what could you have just said, okay, I don't even need to worry about this anymore?
I miss the travel, although we complained. The guys in the office, eventually women was there too. I had an amazing things happen to me. I was put on a audit where I had to go to mines because of a safety issue. We could audit anything that has gets federal funds, and to balance the public sector, I would interview people in the public sector. My first job was in the mines. The first mine was in Colorado Springs, an old gold mine that closed up.
Okay.
And the day before, I ripped my thumb open on my razor. So I got into the elevator, actually called a man shift, and I was bleeding, and it was water coming down. He called it a wet shaft. I said, "What the hell am I getting into here?" But I went to several mines, maybe 9 or 10 across the country, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, the travel definitely. I think people fail to realize. Yeah, we don't. In the working for various organizations myself, people don't understand that the benefits of being able to get out and to meet people and travel not only in the country but internationally. It just opens your eyes on what's available out there and how good we have it as Americans, I feel. Did you get a sense of that when you were traveling and kind of auditing some of these places?
I would go to an agency, and the supervisor would GS-12 or maybe even GS-9, and he had more responsibility than I had as an auditor, and I was always able to empathize with the people. I'm interviewing, or we had set up a site. They would give us a place to work, and we would interview people and do some paperwork, look at the regulations, and criteria is always a big. You want to have criteria when you do an audit. If you don't, we make up on criteria, and that's difficult.
Yeah. Now, when you were doing these auditings around the country, were the folks that you were generally the folks that were being audited, were they receptive towards you guys? Were they helpful, or were they kind of standoffish because they felt like they did something wrong?
Well, I get the feeling you knew about GAO, right?
Yeah.
Were you Army overseas or something, and somehow got hooked up in the Arab immigrants? So you know about GAO. We would have a entrance conference, and the big shots from Washington would come out, and make a big deal out of it. And you always thought we interviewed somebody, and they say thank you, all that stuff. I say thank you, and you turn around. I wonder if they gave me a finger. I'm the GAO. I was the enemy. But if an agent we're auditing is, say, if the agency if the audit was about the agency, they would say there was a conflict within the agency. They would love to talk to you because this is an independent person that could empathize with their situation, and that was good.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, it's a necessary evil to ensure that the taxpayer money is being utilized properly and effectively.
Right.
And
excuse me, I'm going to get my hearing aids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one time I had an audit in Salt Lake City, in the state offices, and these guys were talking about poker game. And I said, could I join your poker game? They said, sure. And we had the poker game, and I was the big winner, which was embarrassing because I was the auditor. But
yeah, a little public image there, right?
Right, you couldn't take any gifts and all this stuff. And one time in Albuquerque for happy hour, there were several of us in the office on different audits in Albuquerque, and there was for happy hour they had a hypnotist, and I became a star being because the way I handled being, I said I wasn't hypnotized, and the guys go, yes, you were, And back on the agency next day, this guy says, I saw you last night at the happy hour of the hotel. He says, you were very good. And I was embarrassed because, once again, I was embarrassed that somebody from agency was aware of me after work.
Yeah. And then out of all the places that you've audited, was there something that just really resonated with you as far as either that particular place or organization that you audited, that either the people or the actual place itself?
Right. Well, you would get on assignment and you had to do work in San Francisco. And people say, that's a boondoggle, people in the office. I says, yeah, I get up 6 o'clock and get back to the office at 7 o'clock. And I can't sightsee nothing. You had to work. I liked interviewing people. I did not like writing the reports.
Yeah.
We had a saying in GAO, reports are released in this office, it escapes. You were sent back to Washington, and the process of getting out a report was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and so with that 34 years of service, 4 years of military service, so almost 40 plus years of federal service of some kind.
Right.
Looking back on it now, how did the experience shape you and like your views today, like who you are as a person?
My lifetime, I always was more aware of what I'd done after I was done with the personnel. I looked back and said, I could have taken advantage of this and that. I always look back with fondness because wherever I was at, San Antonio, Colorado Springs, I did tech training in Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas. It always was. I always found the humor in the situation. I met a guy in our group from Oklahoma, and he had a master's in, laboratory work, whatever, and he became a captain in San Antonio, where I was, and I had some health issues, and they wanted me to collect some samples, and you get the cup. I said, is Lieutenant Sullivan going to get this stuff? He said, yeah. And I filled it to the top, the cup of my fecal matter. And nurse says, oh my God, this is heavy. Don't worry about it. And because my friend in the lab was going to get it. I guess one of the troops gave it to him, and he hated the military, and he said, Sergeant Wernz. I said, oh shit, he never called me Sergeant. He said, if you ever do that again, you're going to be in trouble. I could get away with things. I had to keep my, every several hours I had to empty a pay can, and I had to leave a sample in there. And I make up a story where a guy said, that brown stuff was good, but he didn't eat it. But I always find the humorous end of it. If it wasn't for my humor, I would be dead.
Yeah.
Dead on arrival.
Did you have the same kind of camaraderie that you had in the military in the GAO?
Oh, yes. What happens is you automatically break out to a group. And I've been going to the same happy hour for about 45 years. This guy's retired, and we have happy hour now. And we play basketball on Friday, then go to happy hour. And I had some good friends, and a couple that really was wonderful. Yeah.
Nice. And then, so are you retired now?
From GL?
From everything?
Yeah, I retired in 2000. Yeah, 2003.
Okay. And what did you do after you retired? Anything fun? Anything different that you normally didn't get to do before?
I didn't want to travel. I was just planes, changing planes, and babies crying. I just didn't want to travel, so I didn't travel.
Mm-hmm.
Although I was fortunate, I've been to Israel 3 times.
Oh, nice.
Been to Great Britain. Been to, I think that's about it, because my girlfriend made me travel. I met her in Emmanuel.
I totally get where you're coming from, because I travel for work, and so the last thing you want to do, like on your time off, is get on a plane and go somewhere.
Right.
So
right.
I'm totally lockstep with you on that one. With that being said,
I've been to China. I've been to China too in 2002.
Oh wow,
China.
How was that?
Well, I had a joke that this was the first trip I went on where I took my dirty wash to China because there's a lot of. And if I said that today, I would be shot by some liberal. You can't badmouth China the way I did back then. And in the hotel, one of the hotels in Beijing, there was in addition to the hotel, there's a little step. And of course, I did not avoid it. I went down on my knee and I was in pain. And I got back that night, and this guy comes over and says, you fell this morning, didn't you? They must have had cameras. And they knew I fell. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the sense of China the way I would have, if I would have gone after my retirement, it would have been different. Well, I did go after my retirement, but it was thousands of bicycles, and now it's thousands of cars.
Yeah.
And if I knew what I knew then back down, I would not have gone to China.
So you just went on personal travel. You just wanted to go check it out?
Yeah, personal travel. And because of their the way they treat their people and kill them, you have reprogramming camps and everything. And I would not go to China. Likewise, Rabbi Foster would go to Cuba. I refused to go to Cuba. He says, no, my girlfriend went, and I would not go to Cuba.
So tell me a little bit about your personal life, as far as, so you're working at the GAO. Were you single at the time? Did you get married during that time?
I'm not married.
Okay.
And Guy says, people say you're lucky.
And so during that time,
and working for GAO, that took away from my social time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hard to establish roots when you're on your way to a city. I did interviews on Indian reservations.
Then, so do you have family at all, like in Colorado or anywhere close?
No, I never had family in Colorado. A lot of people, their family comes after they get to Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You couldn't get my dad. Yeah.
And I was going to ask, did they ever come to visit you?
Yes, one time. And when it was the week we're going to have the annual picnic in GAO, which everybody went, just the brown nose, the big shots. And my dad smoking a cigar, and this guy came back with a watermelon. He happened to be a man of color, and he says, "I smell watermelon." My dad laughed and laughed because that fit right into the stereotype that his group had. And I took it to the mountains, and my dad is, maneuvering. And we got back. He says, "What do you think about the trip?" He said, "That was a lot of mountains." And he'd rather be in the pool drinking a beer, and he wasn't a sightseer. Nor my mom. I never went to the Empire State Building. I never went to the State Building. And people now die to go there.
Yeah.
And my sister is in Connecticut, and we have a little problem. She doesn't talk to me. So, and we fought like cats and dogs.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about, you're working at the GAO office. You said 99, you kind of got the itch to kind of re-identify with your Jewish identity.
I picked up my Jewish identity in 1998.
Okay.
I never went to church, and then I just had this pulling feel. I was pulled into the Judaism, and I love it. And Emmanuel became my second home, and I have so many acquaintances over there. And I jumped into, I went to Introduction to Judaism on my own. Normally I have to have a sponsor. I didn't know, and I made it known that I was Jewish, and changed my religion. And the Jewish situation, I was born for it. I mean, I always say, here I am a Jew, but I never grew up a Jew in New York City, and all the things I could have done as a Jew in New York City.
And was it something in your life that you felt was missing? Was it like a crazy event that happened in your life that kind of got you on that path? Like what drew you to that, being part of that community?
I think my chromosomes were talking to me, and they said, you better pick up a Judaism. And it was, people always say it, I was just drawn into it. I was nervous picking a temple to go to, happened to be Emmanuel. And I'm so happy about being a Jew. So in the Air Force, I was a Jew, but did not follow the religion, unfortunately. And I was just drawn into it. It was like there was a magnet over there, and that just pushed me right into the magnet. Just drew my attention.
And what do you feel that the community has given you that you didn't have before?
A sense of togetherness. You go into the temple, and it's like day and night. You're leaving the anti-Semitic people out there in the cold, and you go in, excuse me, and you become part of that community, which is very accepting. They're warm, and I made a lot of acquaintances, and it was my home away from home. But recently, I left Emmanuel. I'm going to Sinai.
Okay.
The rabbi said, the senior rabbi, he says, "I'm not going to let you go because I did all the mitzvahs and everything, and but I left for health reasons."
Gotcha. And with that, you said you've been to Israel a couple times. You've been active in the community. Now you're part of the veteran community as well. Is there something that you think that we as a community can improve upon here in the coming, near future, as far as do you see something, since you've been a part of the community for over 20 years now, you obviously, and you've been in planning, you've done a lot of things in your life. Do you feel that we could improve in some way for the better from what you've seen in the last 20 years?
Well, I've been in Colorado for 49 years, and I go to meetings. I don't like the saluting, that military stuff. I just do not like that. And yes, there are improvements. There's always, an organization always needs some improvements. And of course, we don't have too many young people. In fact, I think the average age of that group is death. So, and where I live in the dormitory, the average age is death too. It's
I'm the youngin' at 40. So.
Oh, I'm 75 next month.
Yeah. You're like a big brother.
Right. And always told I don't look my age. And you don't act your age either.
You don't look a day older than 74.
Right. You don't look a day older than 74. So I went down to Sadie's, and Gerard was up front, and everything. And he looked lousy this day. I said, Gerald, what's the matter? He says, I'm 75 years old today. Wise guy, you don't look a day over 74. He did not like it. The only person I told that to who did not like it.
Yeah, you can't please everybody, right?
Right. And jokes, I can tell you, I think the funniest joke in the world, and there's some people, it's the humor is in the eyes of the beholder. And back in GAO, I used to be the MC for people going away or people joining the organization. And back then, I didn't have my speech problem I have today.
And looking back on your life and all the accomplishments that you've had, what do you want people to remember you by?
My humor. I feel I'm destined to make people laugh. Because pre-COVID, even pre-COVID, people walk around with a frown on their face, they're pissed off, and I would, then it would be a challenge for me to make them laugh.
Right.
Even by having a bad pun, even they go, oh, it's still, it's therapy for me.
Yeah. And
in fact,
go ahead. You're good.
When I'm when I die, I'm in the casket, and Rabbi Foster is doing my eulogy. I want somebody to have a cell phone in my casket and somebody call it, because they always say, turn your cell phone off. Turn. One time the cell phone rang, and it was the rabbi's. It was the rabbi's cell phone.
Of course, the irony. And
I want to get back to what can be improved.
So we're talking about the Post, but we're talking about the Jewish community in general also. So if you see something within the congregations or, the Federation or whatever you see, like...
Oh, in fact, I review films for the Jewish Film Festival, and I became part of more of the community. And I would take stacks of the programs and just leave them off all over town. Delis and gyms, and I was so proud of that. I was in Einstein's on Hamden and Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Einstein, and I'm handing 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm handing out brochures. I always ask, I would put him down. And this one guy said to me, "Can you go to a Jewish movie if you're not Jewish?" And I said, "Of course." And if you go, you get a free box of popcorn. I made a joke at him, because you go to a French movie, you go to an Italian movie, but when he asked me that, it showed his naivety of the religion, which, as you have to go along with the punches. And the temple, the Post, there's things that could be improved, but it escapes my mind right now.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Just definitely keep me in the loop if you think of something. Cause,
right. I think what's funny is I thought I was going to be interviewing people, and your objective was interviewing me, and that was a little bit of a shock.
Well, you held your own, so I think we're okay. So you said you went a couple times to Israel. What were your impressions of Israel while you were there, and what did you all do while you were there? Was it like more of a tourist?
I moved to Israel. The things holding me back is that lousy hot weather in the summertime.
Yeah, if you can't take San Antonio heat, you're definitely not taking, the Mediterranean heat.
If Israel wasn't San Diego or San Francisco, that would be a different story. But not, they're in where they should be. And I'm proud of going to Israel. And there's a lot of Jewish doctors there, which amazed me. That's a joke.
Yeah, they kind of congregated there, didn't they? Any words of wisdom that you can think of for, let's say, younger folks thinking about possibly joining the federal service ranks or in some capacity? It doesn't seem to be an option the way it used to be anymore. I mean, obviously, would you recommend it, first of all? And then secondly, what advice would you give to somebody like just finishing up college or, wanting a career change in federal service?
The hardest thing to do when you move here is you miss growing up with the family. Denver, New York City, Denver, people think I live in the Wild West, And people would ask me, GAO, "Alan, I'm thinking of going back to Detroit or whatever." And I tell them, do it. Don't separate yourself from the family. That's my one regret. And I also would give people advice when they ask about the career and stuff like that. And now being 75, I would go to a class. I go to Ollie a lot. And I look around and I say, if I can remember what I said, I would say, I forgot. I lost my train of thought in that one. I like to talk, as you picked up.
Yeah, for being hesitant to interview, you're doing fine.
Great. So, advice was go back to where you were born, and I would give advice on careers, and I would view in movies, Jewish Film Festival. I would know movies that are good. Now, I had to write them and write a critique on it, and I would tip off people. I said, see this movie, see that movie. I became part of the business of movies, and I'm a cocky little guy, and I was proud of that.
Yeah. Have you watched any of the recent stuff that's been coming out, like Unorthodox or some of the Israeli shows that are on the TV, like Fauda or any of that kind of stuff?
I watched the one with the Orthodox one.
Yeah.
And then the woman, Mays, the woman who, I forget the name of the show, it's a hit. I don't like it though, that movie, that series. Do you know Abe Wagner? He's the Denver MC. He went all over the world giving lectures. And so he was going to teach a class at Ollie, and I signed up for it. I said, this is going to be good. There was a problem. He would tell a joke, and I knew the punchline. Everybody laughed. So I had to drop the class because you couldn't have two comedians in a room like that.
Well, Alan, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for your time. Hopefully you got something out of it, and hopefully we can share these videos and at least the audio for our fellow veterans in the community and get to know each other better during these times. I think it's important that
audio is going to be. You should edit that sucker. I was jumping from one to the other, and I don't think it was a good interview. I mean, for me, I don't think I was psychologically prepared for it, and getting up at 9 o'clock, oversleeping didn't help out the situation.
I think you did all right. I think you're a little hard on yourself, to be honest. But
well, when you would laugh, I have a smile on your face. You know, I was happy to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. You made me laugh, that's for sure. So,
well, if you want to have part 2 next week, let me know.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about the Arab-Israeli conflict to get some jokes out of that, right?
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, we have the Accords, and then we have, well, I was a Democrat. I changed to Republican. And although I was involved in politics my whole life, I didn't see it until I was following Trump. I became aware of things I didn't even know, and I was in the government. It was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
So mumbling Biden, who should be in jail. Now, anything you want to add to this, I'll be more than happy to talk to you again.
Yeah, no worries. We'll figure something out and try to do maybe something where we have 1 or 2 of you guys and we can talk like current events and things like that. So, all right. Well.
Oh, there's a camaraderie with Jews in the military. But they talk about, I don't know because I didn't grow up Jewish. In World War II, a lot of Jews were quartermasters because it's a stereotype that they handle money. So a lot of Jews, in fact, my uncle, Nat, he was there. He was a quartermaster. Mm-hmm. And one time in GAO, I was in Alabama with one of my big managers. We had happy hour, And this drunk at the bar says, "You're a Jew from New York City." Now I should say, "And you're a dumbass from Alabama," but I just looked at him stunned because I didn't grow up with anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
But people, for some reason, they stereotyped, and somehow they figured out I was Jewish. I don't know. So, and my manager said, "Let's leave this place out."
Yeah.
In Idaho, I had a job in Idaho, and I was in the belt where you have these right-wing guys with guns and everything, and there was no problem. So,
I do have one question before we take off
sure.
here. So it's been kind of I've seen a trend with a lot of you guys that are in the veterans group where you might have started off as a socially liberal Democrat, but then slowly have migrated over to a more conservative outlook. Was that something that just happened over time, or was it just you changed as a person and therefore your viewpoints and what you believe in and what you value changed to move you to a more conservative mindset?
Well, obviously, I didn't like what the Democrats were doing. I voted. My first time I vote was for Nixon. I didn't tell anyone. And what was the question?
Well, just why do you think that guys like your age are going from Democrat to Republican now?
Right. Nowadays, it happens like the way I was drawn into Judaism. I hate when people say Judaism. It's Judaism. And you're drawn to it. And you have something in common. And people like tell wartime stories, war stories. And I was at the VA hospital to get my hearing aids. And this guy, I think he was in the Civil War. He was old. And he said, "You see this hearing aid?" I said, "It's the best hearing aid I ever had." I said, "Sir, I'm so happy for you." He said, "I could hear birds chirping. I could hear the pitter-patter of rain. I could hear my wife. Well, 2 out of 3 is not bad." And I said to him, "What kind is it?" He said, "12. 12. He couldn't hear. Okay.
On that note, perfect ending.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll let you know when it's up, and I'll send you a link so you can pass it on to friends and family and whatnot.
Well, do you edit it?
No, I mean, besides adding credits and whatnot, not really.
Because I said things that I shouldn't have said. It wasn't politically correct. In fact, you can't call a jail, you can't call a prison a jail, the big house, whatever. You have to call it a gated community.
Don't worry, the PC warriors aren't going after 75-year-olds. I think you'll be okay.
Well, I have a Trump hat I never would wear in public. And that burns me, that pisses me off because, hey, I'm not pissed off Democrats and don't have the hatred you have for Trump. And it sort of took away this is America. And the way things have changed is very bothersome to me. In fact, I absorb it and become enraged inside. And I think this country's going to hell. It's going to become a socialist country. We have a president who signed 41 executive orders, and that bypasses the Congress, Senate, and the House, where they have hearings and everything. And this guy's passing 41 laws without the input of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And he closed down the pipeline, Keystone. It's going to 10,000 jobs. And around the country who's, subcontractors, it's 100,000 people. I mean, I'll talk about this next time.
Yeah, we'll get into it the next time.
Were you in the service?
Yeah, I was in the Army for 12 years.
Wow. What was your last duty assignment?
Fort Carson, Colorado Springs.
Yeah, so that's when you came to Colorado.
Yep, came to Colorado in 2004, 2003, 2004, and been there.
See, if I had to interview you, I would. It would be not a challenge. It would be fun.
Oh yeah.
Then you have a civilian job now in immigrant, and is it a nonprofit or something? What?
No, I mean I started like a small consultant firm and work on independent contracting stuff for DOD, DOS, and other oil and gas industries for security and cybersecurity, that kind of stuff. So,
well, how did you get set up in the Middle East?
There's networks out there and jobs and other things that people that like government agencies and other people, they win contracts and they need labor to go and facilitate those contracts.
When I was auditing, I loved contract jobs because you had criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And my specialty was health. My health, no. So thank you. I'm sorry for the way I acted when you called. I'm embarrassed by that.
You're fine.
And
you're 75 years old and on Zoom. That's a win. You know what I mean? So I'm if you get frustrated with technology or anything else, like I don't take that personally.
Well, my technology was in GAO training.
Right.
And we had a T group. And one time the guy says, hit any key. I said, I can't find the key that says hit any key. I'm a little bit naive. I think my cell phone, I use 1% of the technology, and the PC maybe 4%. It's for young people.
Yeah.
In fact, if I have a problem with my phone, I go down to a kindergarten class and have the 5-year-old or 6-year-old help me out.
There you go.
It's amazing. Okay, thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Oh, do you have I don't get the post newsletters. I think it's going to a different email address. Do you have the email for his name is Maynard? Is he the post commander right now?
It's Jim Bernard.
Jim Bernard.
Yeah. So we'll get you set up, but thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Stay safe, and thank you.
The show is produced and engineered by myself, Ben, out of Denver, Colorado. Be sure to subscribe to our social media or wherever you consume content, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Big shout out to Mike Xavier. Thank you so much for letting us use your music as part of our show. Be sure to check him out as well on social media. And stay tuned for the next show.